Welcome to Foam to Fortune, the ultimate podcast for spray foam insulation industry. Whether you're a contractor aiming to take your business to the next level or a vendor bringing innovation to the market, this is the place where success stories are shared, insider tips are uncovered, and the industry secrets are revealed. Join us as we dive into the journeys of the spray foam pros who turn their dreams into thriving empires and discover tools and strategies to build your own path to fortune. Ready to elevate your spray foam game? Let's get started. Foam to Fortune, where innovation meets inspiration. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 29 of the Foam to Fortune podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and today we have Ken Ashcom from Spray Foam Partners and Energy Modeling Agency. What's up, Ken? Welcome to the show.
How you doing? It's great being here.
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Don't be nervous. It's just a couple guys just going to have a conversation here. Ken,
sure.
You've been in this business now for around 20 years. Give us a little bit of background of like who the heck Ken is. Why should people listen to you?
All right. So, 20 years ago, I was just a contractor. I had my own contracting company, and one day I woke up and said, hey, let me do some math here. It's the worst math ever, by the way, where you look at the guys you're paying and the hours they put in, and, they put their tool belts down and go home and they're happy. I'm working still. You're running a company, you're doing everything, and you're just working 24/7. And I had a young daughter at the time, and, one day woke up and realized I really haven't seen this kid for a month or so.
Yeah.
And that's not good. And then I did that math and said, well, these guys are making twice what I am if you count the hours that I put in. And I was like, you know what, maybe there is a better way to do this. And maybe somebody else has it figured out better than I do. So then I just started looking for a sales job. I'm pretty good at sales and what have you. Then stumbled across one of the oldest spray foam companies around the country up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And they hired me on, and, I only saw this spray foam stuff on this old house a couple times, thought it was cool, but then I got to start learning about it, and it was, it's a fantastic product. And the nice thing is that the building science is really what can sell and really does sell, the spray foam. So I started incorporating that into a sales process and saw a lot of success, so I just grew on the sales and the applicating side. And then one day, 10 years later, decided to make the jump to the manufacturer side and became a manufacturer's rep, thinking I could take everything I learned and share with these customers of mine. And that would be my in with my customers. And that really did, resonate with people, because you're new into an industry, especially when you're new into an industry, you just don't know what you don't know. And, and they're all like, well, I can figure it out, but, I've made all the mistakes, so let me at least try to guide you away from the bad stuff and towards, what's profitable, what makes sense, and how to actually run a business, do some proper job costing, figure out if you're actually making money on these jobs. And then I spent almost, I think it was like 8 years at the applicating company, another 8 at Lapola at the time. And then they got bought out, and I just didn't like the way the manufacturer side was looking at, what I did for a living. It's no longer about, helping the customer grow their business. It was more about just sell more and sell more and sell more. Right. It's all about the money. And I get it. It's a company. It's a business. That's what it's supposed to be about. But they could go hand in hand if you do it right. So I had an opportunity to, leave. And I negotiated taking just about all of my customers with me, which is unheard of in the corporate world.
Yeah, true.
And then started Spray Foam Partners with my business partner, John Cunningham. He had the infrastructure, and together we're seasoned foamers and business people. And, honestly, it's been a perfect partnership with that guy. We defined our roles right from the beginning. This is what I do. This is what you do. Anything that's in the middle, we'll talk about. And it's worked perfectly for 6 years now. So,
Amazing.
yeah, it's just been a nice run and nice ride. It's been lots of fun. But really what I love to do is to help people grow their businesses and teach them, the right ways to do things. And that's not so much on the applicating side. There's techs out there that can teach you how to pull the trigger. And most of that is just you're, you're in there, you get the basics, then you refine your own skills.
Yeah.
Knowing the equipment is other part of it, but that's also not what I do. I'm on the business end, I'm on the sales end, I'm on the building science end. Let me help them navigate those waters and grow and build your business. It's really just that simple.
Yeah, that's great. And why don't you tell us a little bit about energy modeling agency as well? I know that seems to be one of your passions.
Yeah. Well, when I was with the company in Allentown, I started looking for a tool to uh, show code compliance, and even back then it was an R38 that was required in an attic space, and that's still a lot of spray foam.
Yeah.
And I'd be so, terrified to go in front of a code official and try to plead that case. Like, look, this stuff doesn't need to have that high of R value. And then I found the tools that I needed. And one of the programs is the REM rate program that is used by just about every energy auditor out there. But I found a way and a section of the energy codes which allows me to show a simulated performance path to compliance. So the basis behind it, as long as you can show that house is going to be at least 30% more efficient than standard building practices, then it's approved under that section of code. 30% is low hanging fruit for us in the spray foam world. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, hell, I'm on to something now. And I started using that as a sales tool for myself. And it worked. Not only that I can show the compliance component of it, I can present a side-by-side picture for the customer. This is their house. This is their house on fiberglass. This is their house on foam. This is how much energy you're going to save on a yearly and then an average monthly savings. And then you can spin that into the right perspective for the customer, where spray foam becomes an investment, because if they paid an extra $5,000, to put foam in versus fiberglass, you throw in maybe $30, $40, per month at a mortgage. When those reports would show, in that case, you'd probably be closer to $100 saving each month. So saving $100 a month and spending 30 is kind of a no-brainer in anybody's book. So that's how it becomes an actual investment. So, and what through the sales process, I've learned, you go out there to the customer, you're talking to them, and they're rarely focused on the energy savings and the money aspect of it, right? They're always in how can this benefit me and my family? So you always hit the sizzle on the steak, more comfortable, quieter, healthier, it knocks out all the pollutants and all that kind of stuff. And if you do your job right as a salesperson, you get down to one thing and only one thing, and that's a price objection. That's when you slide in the energy saving component and say, look, this is not going to cost you more. It's actually going to be an investment and save you every month. So if you use that as the proper tool on the sales side, it works almost every time. There's still people that are going to be counting the pennies. You can't win them all, but so looking at that, I was successful using it myself, and I'm like, well, there's a big country. There's a lot of spray foam contractors out there. They can use this too. So that's when I started the energy modeling agency. What I discovered, and it really works out best for everybody anyway, but most contractors use it more for the compliance component of it more than a sales tool. But I swear, if you walk into that house with that customer's name and address on this, this report that shows the energy savings, they're instantly in. But
Yes.
most people take one of the old ones they did for somebody else and say, hey, we can do something like this for you. And they wait until they get the sale before they go ahead and purchase the reports from Energy Modeling Agency, which are only like $200 for this spray foam contractor, which I keep artificially low because this is my industry. I want everybody to succeed. So I don't charge a lot of money for it. And my kid does all the work. So it's kind of like a little family business. So he sits at the computer all day and punches out these reports, and I take the calls from any customers. So at the end of the day, it's a great tool to make more sales. You can show compliance with as little as an R13 in the walls and an R20 in the attic. And that's pretty much up until, climate zone 5, 6, you may need a little bit more, and it's more a perception thing, but I don't know. 2021 codes came around, and in Maryland, you need to put in R60 of insulation into an attic space. Some of it just makes zero sense. And New Jersey, it's 60 and then 30 in the walls. I'm like, what are you people doing?
Well, the house is never going to blow away.
Well, I guess
if there's ever a tornado. Not that that's a tornado area, but
it's funny how like markets like in the New England market, that's really where spray foam got its hold on the country from the beginning. This old house probably had a lot to do with this or whatever. But they're conditioned up there to put the prescriptive amount of foam in. And there's like a spray foam contractor on every corner, and then there's a supplier on every other corner. And everybody's beating each other down and down and down, and they're fighting for pennies at this point. And I'm like, why, and they're only beating each other down because they're trying to make it up on the volume that they do. And it's stupid, anything over an R20 is a waste of money in just about any insulation, but the more leaky it is, the worse it is. And there's justifications for going to an R60 because like fiberglass doesn't work well. But when we look at spray foam, you get a 96% heat flow reduction out of 3 inches of spray foam. You put 6 inches, you get a 97. What the hell did you just do there except for double the cost? Because you're not going to see any more real measurable, energy improvement, from a 96 to a 97. After you're in the high 90 percentile, you're already maxed out on your efficiency. So it just doesn't make sense to put more than 3 inches in.
Yeah, so it sounds like they really need to figure out a difference in the R value when code compliance is saying what type of insulation. Are we talking about bats and blow-in, or are we talking about spray foam? Because it's apples and oranges, but they only have the one law or the one code compliance.
Yeah, it goes by R value. R value is a very antiquated measuring system. They take 1 inch of any material, put it in its closed hot box, looks like a little microwave unit. Heat goes there. Whatever flows through that inch is its resistance value, the R value. Then they extrapolate from there. So fiberglass has an R of 3.6 per 1 inch. So 10 inches has to be an R36. It really doesn't work that way because fibrous material works by trapping pockets of air between the fibers. And that's what its purpose is to do. And the air's doing the insulating, not the fibers, So problem is it's also the same material we use for filters. So obviously it's not trapping air for long if you have any air movement whatsoever. And that could be anything from a slight breeze through the attic space to convective looping in a wall cavity. It's just, it's greatly affects the efficiency of those products. So, it's just a matter of getting the right product that actually works. Foam's air impermeable, and there you go. It's something that's going to continue to stay the same R value and the same performance level forever. So it just makes sense to use spray foam, but it doesn't make sense to put an R60 of spray foam in ever. So how do you show that? How do the foamers show it? And everybody's terrified of the code officials. and they get a bad rap. Most code officials are really good guys. They're just trying to do a job that everybody tries to sneak stuff by them. And when they catch them, they're the bad guy all of a sudden, and that's not really a fair rap. But equally, that gets old as a profession. And some of those guys get a little jaded and become a little bit more cynical and a little harder to deal with. But in my experience, and I talk to a lot of code officials, because if they're pushing back on this compliance path on their energy modeling agency, I usually give them a call and say, okay, let me show you how this works through this section of code. The code book's that thick. I don't know any of the other parts. I just know this section, so I can be an authority in it. I'm not putting them down for not understanding every little line of that book, So usually once it's explained and they're good with it, and it's just a matter of getting them to that point. So at Energy Modeling Agency, what we do is, customer would, buy the reports online and you get $199, nice and inexpensive. They attach their prints to the questionnaire and they fill out the questionnaire with all the customer information, the foam they're putting in, the brand, the thicknesses, all that kind of stuff. So then we go to work and put together a complete compliance packet. So they get the compliance documents. They get the side-by-side comparison report, which is great to give to anybody and everybody that wants to see it. But then they get the actual compliance documents, the certifications, and there's three reports in it, 3 pages in that report. And that's what they should always hold to themselves and only give to the code official. And then they get all the other attachments that they would need, like, the ESR, the TDS, the SDS sheets, and a couple other documents from us, which one's called Meeting the Energy Codes. So it's really meant for the code official to go, I don't have time to learn this shit, but all right, let me look at this. And it just steps them through simply, that process. And 99% of the time when we send that as an email, and the contractor's job is to just call up the code official and say, hey, can I send you this compliance documents? You don't need to talk about anything else other than that. Let our paperwork do the work for them. And actually, I prefer that they don't talk to them because, it can mess it up.
And not get the guy on their side.
Right.
You're trying to make build rapport with that code compliance guy. Also, for the future code compliance situations, if you present one of your guys' reports from Energy Modeling Agency, I feel like if it's a local code compliance guy you come across all the time, they're probably just going to go, you know what?
No.
This guy knows what the heck he's talking about. Go ahead and sign off on it and you're good to go.
You know what's not genius? Staying up late nights till midnight, editing a spreadsheet. Today's episode is brought to you by FoamBid. This brand new app is designed to save you time and protect your profits. Instead of wasting time crunching numbers, you can deliver the right bid right on the job site. This means more jobs won and less late nights. Sign up now for the app that's launching soon at foambid.co/beta.
This guy knows what the heck he's talking about. Go ahead and sign off on it and you're good to go.
Right. And that's, happens all the time now. And even they run into other situations where they have like a rafter spaces that are 2x10s and there's no way you can jam all that fiberglass up there. They'll just go, hey, go to, this contractor and have them give us an energy report. And, they're not supposed to do that, but it happens at least a couple times a week at this point. Just, they don't want hassles in their life either. They're just trying to do a job. Go home, see their family like the rest of us. And that's the way I've always looked at it. They're not my enemy. I approach it going, hey, we have a common goal here. We just want to do what's right by the homeowner. So let me show you what I can do. If you have questions, we'll work through it. But 99% of the time, the packet of information that they pass along to the code official is enough for them to just go, yep, I get it, approved. and they move on to the next project, and so does the applicator.
Yeah.
And the spray foam contractor should always do this before putting the foam in, because there's, that's when panties get all in a bunch and they draw lines in the sand and go, no, I need the R value. And it's a battle that I win almost every time. But honestly, I don't have the time to fight these battles for everybody, so I really try to train everybody that works with us at Energy Modeling Agency to do this before you put the foam in. And honestly, the code official appreciates that because they're getting the respect that they deserve. This is what we're going to be doing. If you have any questions, we're here for you. And they're like, holy shit, nobody does that. So
versus this is what we've done.
Right.
Now can I have your blessing?
Make it work. Right. And I'm guilty for, forgiveness is a lot easier to get than permission on a lot of things in life. But, in this case, I promise, giving this information up front definitely helps the cause. And, and more importantly, it gives you the ability to sell more foam because you're selling more projects and you're in and out quicker. And I always recommend to give, a quote to that customer at prescriptive R values. Even discount the price, I don't care. But and you give a separate quote to do it at performance R values, that price difference is going to be so big that the customer's going to go, before they saw the price, they'll be like, I don't know what this boy's talking about. But afterward, they're like, this boy's on to something. And because they just saved thousands of dollars. And the homeowner or contractor or builder doesn't have to do anything. That's all on the applicator, the spray foam applicator, where they can just follow my little system, call up the code official, forward over this email, and they're done. It's just that easy. And I have dozens of companies across the country that just use us religiously. Every job that they do that this fits for that job, obviously, they're buying the report even before they get the job, because they know it's going to lead to getting a job. So, and that's what I started the company for, is the sales process, because I love the sales process, and there's ways to make this work. There's ways to improve your sales without lowering your price.
As well as it helps you separate yourself from the other contractors that are coming in there bidding. Somebody's just looking at, really, they're trying to figure out, like, why should I choose Ken over Spencer? Oh, it's about the same price. It looks like, I think they're both good. They get this report from you guys and they go, okay, this, Ken's the guy to go with because Spencer doesn't have this.
Right. And that, professionalism is a big part of our industry that is lacking. And that's, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I get it. I've had many businesses that failed. I've had several that have been successful. So you get out there and you just dive in and try to figure it out as you go. But we have the tools that can make you look, professional and, like the person that they're going to want to do business with, without really doing anything other than clicking the mouse and buying the report. It's really just that simple. Then it really, we're doing this for, I don't even know, full time since probably 2013. So that's 12 years or so, and honestly, at that time, I'm like, it's just going to be a little time before everybody uses this as a tool, but it's a challenge because it's an education process to every contractor there, that to get them to this point that they understand how valuable this is. Otherwise, they're like, yeah, whatever. And they just keep on going on and on their same path and doing things, by the seat of their pants.
I'm curious if you have any data. We're talking about sales here, and to me, as a data driven guy, do you have any data for a percentage of close rate where a guy presents, like, I know, for example, maybe you have a customer that's, religiously always gets the reports, and that he closes at a 60% or 70% close rate, where prior to working with you guys, he was at maybe a 20 or even worse.
Yeah, I mean that's the numbers that I've seen, and I could talk from my own personal experience that before this I was closing in the 10 to 15% ratio, which is enough to put food on your table, but not enough to crow about for sure. And then I went down this path and put all this stuff together, and my ratio was in the 60 to 70% all the time.
Yeah.
I was well into the six figures, several times over a couple 100,000 in sale. I mean, in commissions off of sales, not total sales. We're talking millions of dollars in sales just by using this as a tool. And that's why I'm like, well, hell, if I can do this, I can teach other people how to do this. And got excited about sharing this knowledge. And I mean, it's hard to believe that I'm one of the old dogs now in the industry, but I am. I've seen a lot of crap out there, and I've seen people get into trouble. I've been into trouble, from being just ignorant and wanting to make a sale. And sometimes it's just better not to make a sale and line yourself up for a disaster later. And what I'm most valuable to my customers on the Spray Foam Partner side is that anytime they even have an inkling of a question, they call me. And I'm, all right, dude, this is what you need to do, and it's going to be backed by me as well as most manufacturers because, I was on that side of the table for a long time. So I know the guidelines that they want to play by. So I try to use that as one of the additional tools to help protect my customers. And because I've been in the industry so long, I know just about every manufacturer out there, and I can make a call to the CEOs or presidents right now. I don't abuse those privileges, but if you need it, I could do it. But I guess that also falls back to me being an old dog in the industry now. So
true, you've been around, even though it doesn't. Maybe part of it seems like it. Other part of you're like, oh man, I can't believe I've been doing this 20 years.
I mean, I still feel like I'm a 20-year-old. So I'm like, how's that possible? I have a grandchild now. I'm like, what the hell happened there?
Yeah, how's that even possible? You just graduated high school last week.
That's what I think.
I feel the same way, man. I feel the same way. I'm curious, you just were mentioning on the distribution side of things. Have you guys, you sit in kind of the middle of the supply chain.
Yep.
What are the biggest challenges currently that you guys are facing? And have you been seeing any challenging with like the sourcing and the distribution of either the spray foam or the chemicals? Have you guys seen an increase in pricing due to possibly the tariffs or just the market economy?
Well, the market economy is actually doing the opposite. It's driving prices down.
Okay.
And manufacturers, you talk to them all the time. They're like, we need to raise prices. But then, we went from that supply shortage where it was a very tough time for a lot of people.
You're talking about the shortage in COVID?
Yeah, the COVID shortage was really caused by other things than COVID, but we all wound up with no chemical to spray out there. One of the suppliers, I was doing like whatever 8 truckloads a month from them, and they're like, "Here, you can have 1 truckload every other month." And I'm like, "Whoa, what am I supposed to do with that?" They put it in 5-gallon pails and share it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, doing that for every customer." I'm like, "Well, I'm not one customer. I'm several dozen customers." You got to put that into perspective, but they didn't care.
I represent so many contractors. That's not going to work.
It's not going to work, So I switched gears and partnered with a manufacturer that did care, and did want to work with us. And that's the relationship part of it, which is the most, powerful thing is, it doesn't matter who's in this industry, you treat them with respect and care about their success, and we all will rise in that sense. But you never know who's going to be where in another 5-10 years, and I'm never a jealous person when somebody succeeds. I'm actually the opposite. I'm like, great, how'd you do it? But we see that the supply came back in a big way. And then you saw all the smaller system houses being bought out by larger system houses, which created this like little gold rush that anybody that thought that they can develop their own formula and bring out their own product. And now you got a bunch of smaller system houses. Some of them are private labeling other people's products. And next thing you know, there's way more supply than there is, demand here.
We had Robert Niney on the show, and I was talking to him about Daytona, past SPFA show, and I'm like, how many manufacturers were represented there? And I think it was over 36 plus manufacturers.
It's insane. I mean, go back to the Vegas show the year prior. We were there really pushing to develop a network of distributors. Just take what we do, which is very lean machine. We don't own any buildings. We don't rent any buildings. We use other people's buildings to house the material to be able to sell out of those locations. Spray foamers already know how to manage and handle material, and it worked out for those warehouse partners. And we just figured we can grow across the country like that by being leaner, because we didn't have the overhead that like these big box distributors do, which was working really well until that supply portion of it came back and then blew up like that. So now you don't just have distributors trying to handle the smaller applicators. And that's my bailiwick. I love working with the smaller guys to help them grow their businesses and make them more successful and, more importantly, more profitable. But now all these manufacturers or pseudo manufacturers are running after those customers as well. And we're like, well, right now the water is way too muddy for us to continue down that path. So it's something we will do, just the timing's not right now, so we're still we backed off and we're handling our original customer base, which goes from New York down to Virginia out to Ohio, which, is enough for us to, still stay afloat and continue doing what we do and work on our plans for world domination later. But,
Can you look at your crystal ball, Ken, and tell us when you see that, you guys might be expanding?
I'm thinking it's probably at least another 2 years before this market's going to settle down into something. There's going to be system houses failing or going under because, there's only so many customers out there. So, and I've seen, that's what I was saying earlier is, because of all that downward pressure, all these manufacturers are bending, and even ones that were the big dogs on the hill and were standing tall on their margins, they're like, nope, we got to actually, come down in the trenches now. So, it's an interesting field when I know some of the raw materials have gone up significantly, and they're just taking it off at their end and then going lower, which, it is what it is for the manufacturers. I rode that wave when I was with Lapola. We went down to, single digit margins at times, just to keep customers because we knew it would bounce back. So that's the game they play. And, they made out really well during the chemical shortage period. The
gold rush.
They
right?
would definitely rake it in the cash, and that whole time. And the big box manufacturers did the same. And I was like, they're charging you an extra $1,000 for a set of foam. And I'm like, how is that going to translate to future business? I'm assuming people have a memory, and I just refuse to do that. This is my lifeblood. These customers are, that cliche. They're like my family, but they kind of are. We named the Spray Foam Partners because we don't believe that we're a distributor. We're really more like a partnership with our customers, because we bring all the expertise at the table and partner up with them in that sense that frees them up to go do what they want to do. And most of them spraying the foam, which is great. I love people that care about what they do. But there's not enough time in the day to learn everything that we bring to the table. So why not rely on us? And that concept really, really works. And I have a bunch of very loyal customers because I'm very loyal to them, and they need something, it's done,
Mhm.
The customer who had left us, chasing, truckload, pricing and that kind of stuff. And, 4 months later, they're right back because they realize that they're not getting the support and you bought a truckload, but how long is it going to take you to spray that truckload? And every time you walk in your warehouse, you look, oh, there's another $1,000 just sitting on my floor.
Yeah.
They figure it out, and our pricing isn't much higher than if you bought a truckload from a manufacturer, because again, we have that lean machine going on.
Mhm.
So it just makes sense to just work with us. But I've have lost, but they've come back and they've become even stronger, allies in this fight together, So I just try not to take it personal whenever that happens. And most of the times I chuckle a little bit and go, okay, I'm going to lose sales for a couple of months, but they'll be back.
They'll be back. Yeah.
But that's not a mistake, that is an exact design, that's why we start this company and to do what we're doing, and I tell people this all the time. It's just simply because I'm a greedy person. The better you do, the more foam you're buying from me. So my job is to make sure you're a rock star and you're kicking it out of the park, and then you're buying a shitload of foam from me, and I make money. And it's just that simple.
Of course.
It's a partnership, so it works.
Yeah. So I know you guys, your company's called Spray Foam Partners,
Mhm.
and besides like the distribution piece and supplying the product, like what does the partnership piece entail? Like I know you're talking about like these guys that leave and they're going and they find out like from a manufacturer they buy a truckload and it's great, they get almost as good a price as they would from Ken, but then they realize, oh no, I don't have the customer service. Obviously, that's you guys provide great customer service, but outside of that scope of things, like what is it that what you guys provide?
Well, we all Spray Foam Partners customers get the energy modeling service for free, And again, that's just because I believe that will help them make more sales and they just buy more foam from me, and it just works. So that is a major component of it. So you don't have to spend anything and you can do it for every job that you run across, and use it as a sales tool.
The $299 for the audit, I guess is what you consider it. That's waived if I'm a customer of yours.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's huge,
It's like a no-brainer right there. That one piece, Ken, for me, because I think of what you even said yourself. Your closing rate went from 10 to 15% ish up to 60% plus.
Right.
You're telling me if I just work with you, if I was a spray foamer, that really the first month I work with you, I'm making more money, probably 3 times more money, as well as I have your 20 years of education in my back pocket.
Einstein would have loved this app. He cracked the code of relativity, but even he hated paper. This episode of the Foam to Fortune podcast is sponsored by FoamBid, the app that takes pen and paper out of the equation. No more crumpled notes, no more late night spreadsheets, no more guessing if you're too high or if you're too low. With FoamBid, you create professional, accurate bids right there on the job site, and they're instant and stress-free. Sign up now to get early access to the beta app at foambid.co/beta.
Yes. And that's one of the other things you get is me. I'm on this phone 24/7. I'm available. It doesn't matter when you call me. That customer I was telling you about that left called on Sunday night and said, oh shit, I need foam tomorrow morning. I'm like, I'll have it there by 7 a.m. and he was
Wow.
2 hours from us. I got a delivery guy that loves to come in early. He's awesome. Makes us look fantastic for sure. I take care of that guy well. Really, really good guy. But yeah, he got it there. My customer's like, if you get it there by 8, that'd be fantastic. I'm like, we'll have it there probably closer to 7. And you know, you don't get that type of respect in this industry, because I've been there. I've done that. Like, oh shit, now I got guys going to stand around waiting for a truck for a day. No,
Yeah.
you got to get to work. So shit happens, and we're here to clean up the shit, I guess. So we're
Professional shit cleaner uppers.
that's right. I would say we're professional middlemen. I don't make stuff, I don't install stuff, but I'm definitely helping people grow their businesses.
Yeah.
But you get all that support. We do trainings, not as much as we used to, because the industry is kind of plateaued, I think, and not a lot of new applicators coming into the business. However, continuing education is extremely important, especially for the guys pulling the trigger. It's like I was saying earlier, the technical skill of installing spray foam is something you're taught and then you learn. It's the feel, the look of the foam as it's going in. When things are off ratio. I mean, all the machinery now will tell you very specifically, or will track it and make sure it's not off ratio. But there's nothing better than the skill of the guy that's pulled the trigger to know their product as they're installing it, and that comes in time. And these applicators usually grow and build that skill set. So it's more on the business aspect of spray foam business. Where honestly a lot of people were an applicator, went out and bought a rig, and now they're in business for themselves, which
Totally different.
it's totally different. Small business is the backbone of this country. I applaud them, but spraying the foam becomes like this much of the business, where this much is stuff that they don't know yet, and that's where some of them never recognize that they need help. And unfortunately, a lot of those go under, and the ones chasing the sale solely based on price. They base it off what they heard their competition is, and they go lower. Say, I'm going to win because being the lowest. Nobody ever wins by being the lowest. So Walmart maybe, but that's a different animal. But in this industry, nobody wins by being the lowest. That's the quickest way to go out of business. So, and even in my markets, every once in a while, somebody will pop up, and I'm like, well, I just got to get out in front of these guys. I just want to teach them that they don't need to be the lowest. Use these tools, and you can be the best. And win that way. That's the right way to win. We don't need to do this stuff for practice. We need to make money. It's a business, and honestly, the benefits of spray foam that will continue to help those homeowners for decades to come. We undercharge significantly for what we bring to the table. And hell, I mean, we're still at $1 a board foot for closed cell spray foam pretty much everywhere, sometimes lower. And we were that 20 years ago. Like, what the hell? What's going on? Everything else is, I just went shopping and got like 6 things and it was $75. What the hell?
Yeah.
Why
Don't
we
even
still sell for
$1
$1? Right. Exactly. And I'm like, this is something's not right here. I had a glimmer of hope during the shortage period where chemicals went up so high and customers were forced to raise their pricing. And oh my God, they still sold jobs. They actually sold more at that time. Soon as supply came back and competition got stronger, right back down to the bottom. And there's never once that I've walked into a customer going, hey, you better lower your price. It's always the opposite. I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? You're not making any money. Like, why don't you do it this way and you can make money? Yeah, so I mean, we should be at $1.50 a board foot now, at least. We
Yeah.
were at one point, but it's back down to $1. What can you do?
So is it true to say that you guys, granted, your cost at Spray Foam Partners is just all spread out through the product itself? You're not like for example, if I was to buy a set from the manufacturer versus from you guys,
Mhm.
it might be you know, slightly increased more from Spray Foam Partners, but not enough to where you're like, this doesn't make sense, because you're getting all these other value adds that, in my personal mind, from us just having this conversation, and you guys have to realize this is the first time Ken and I have ever talked. It's not like I know really what you guys do. So
Right.
I'm just looking at it from, I'm a smart business person, and if I had the opportunity to have you in my back pocket with all these value adds, to me it seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
I mean, like,
And we're maybe $50 more a set than if you bought a truckload from the manufacturer. Keep in mind,
oh,
we buy dozens of truckloads from the manufacturers. So that's what we're doing, is we're
yeah,
having double trucks of ISO shipped, directly from the ISO manufacturer. So the spray foam manufacturer doesn't have to double touch it, and therefore the price comes down. It's, there's all these tricks that we do because of the volume that we sell, that we just pass that along. Maybe I should be putting it in my pocket, but I need to help these guys grow their businesses, and their success is my success.
yeah,
And quite frankly, like I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and it warms my heart to see people succeed in business. It really crushes me to see when they go under, because
yeah,
somebody could have helped them. And in the spray foam industry, I could have helped them, but they want to have, they need to want and need to help, and a lot of people don't want to accept help or recognize that they need it,
yeah.
humility,
So if I'm a spray foam contractor and I'm listening, and I'm in that northeastern kind of corner of the United States, you guys can probably help me.
But without a doubt, I can help anybody across the country. I still have connections, and we could
Okay.
work with any applicator across the country. Almost all the different manufacturers have different warehouse locations set up across the country that we can pull from. But, like I said, I backed off of pushing for the national stage, until product comes back under control. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop us from helping anybody who needs help. And even if, like with the energy modeling, if they need that, they can buy that separately than from the foam. But all the other stuff Spray Foam Partner brings to the table is extremely valuable, as you said. And it's, we're most times, if they're a smaller applicator, we're less priced than the local distributors are, because
Yeah.
again, we're lean. We don't need to, pay the lights in a giant warehouse and 20 employees that float around delivering stuff or what have you.
Yeah.
We have those methods to make it, more cost effective on our end, and we just pass that along.
And you're going to make up with it, with the relationship and how long they're going to stay with you. You're going to make you're not, what I'm hearing from you, Ken, is that you guys at Spray Foam Partners, you're not looking to make your buck, or I guess your buck right up front and burn that customer. You're like, let's make a buck over the course of this relationship, because we know that if we keep you guys on the books, that everything is going to work out. People are going to be happy. You already talked about this one guy that left for 4 months. It was like, the grass isn't greener, kid. I'm coming back.
That's it. And I always throw my arms open and say, "Come on, let's go back to business." And
Come here, let me give you a hug.
it's
We all make mistakes, right?
he's a really cool guy too. So I was happy to get him back.
That's awesome. You guys run a certified training academy. Why is this like in-depth formal training important in today's spray foam world?
Well, back, when I started on the manufacturer side, that was an extreme focus. And I'll give it to Mr. Doug Kramer, who started Lapola. That was, he believed in his sales team, and then he believed in having their sales team work directly with those customers to help them build their businesses, and that's the right thing to do, right? Um, so, and that's the reason I went to work, with that company. And then I just saw the progression of the industry and growing up, I guess, if you would. And everybody start moving away from doing trainings. And I actually heard so SPFA started doing training at one point in time, and the manufacturers are like, let's let them do that because there's more liability in us training them than just letting them do that. And I'm like, holy crap. How much liability is to having applicators not knowing what they're doing, putting your product out there, doing it wrong, and now there's all the liabilities on your end. And that's honestly, that's when I started being disillusioned by the manufacturer side. And that's when I said, I need to bounce. I need to continue doing what makes me happy. And, bless you. And having these customers grow their businesses makes me happy, and stay out of trouble, for God's sakes, and there's a lot of ways to get yourself in trouble in this industry. So, let me at least come in and tell you what not to do, which will save you a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money, and certainly a whole lot of aggravation, so I saw the manufacturer move away from proper training. So I'm like, this is one thing that we need to do, is to, step in and provide some of this training for people that would want it. Like I said, a lot of people are more seasoned now in the industry. There's not a lot of new people starting up, but, certainly staying on top of, the safety training and all that kind of stuff is hugely important for the applicators and for their customers and the financial health of the company, because one bad thing could lead to some ruin of a company. And for me, it was always, I thought it was extremely important to teach the applicator why they're installing what they're installing. Putting it in, knowing how to put it in is great. Knowing why you're doing it that way just rounds out the whole picture, and they will always have a customer talk to them while they're in the field. So why not be knowledgeable on your product, and you can learn more about it. And then equally, a lot of those applicators, can and have transitioned into the sales side of things, and they become very successful at it because A, they believe in the product, and then B, they know the product, they know the science behind it. And like I said earlier, science sells spray foam. And that's why it was so important for me to dive into the science from the beginning, and just made it my bitch, so we get out there and make it work for us. That's all. And
I've heard that with so many guests, Ken. We've had Jeremy Bryan on, we've had Todd Bolton, we've had Robert Niney, like all these amazing science geeks. And I say that with all respect, because you guys geek out on this stuff, which the industry needs. And you're absolutely right. If you can provide this science, the sale that does all the heavy lifting. The sale just comes.
Yep. So there's a couple things on the sales front that I always try to teach people. And one is to have a sales process. You go in there with a goal in mind and making that sale. And every customer is going to be a little bit different, but you can put them all into certain categories, and then you really know how to handle that type of person. If it's an engineer type, to talk about specs and that kind of stuff. But most people just want to feel like they're doing the right thing by their family by putting this in. And that's what you hit on all the time. And like I said, you leave the energy savings to the end and close on that. So you sell on comfort, you close on energy savings. If you follow that formula, you're going to increase your sales process significantly just by doing that little process right there. And then there's the oh shit, I forgot the second one now. That's remember, I'm a grandfather, so
We'll just blame that on the 20 years of
Yeah, it's
thing.
hey, I didn't wear masks when I was in the attics with these sprayers back in 20 years ago.
They didn't know about that stuff back then.
There are some repercussions to that. So I'm sensitized to foam, you know.
Yeah.
So that was
The
one of
ice
the
got to
repercussions.
the brain.
It really did. But
Yeah.
then that's
You
what I
remember
tell people in the trainings is like, hey, if you get sensitized, you better go get another job or just go into sales. So just stay away from the job site. That's all. And put a
Yeah,
mask
for
on.
sure. So the educational piece of what you guys do with the certified training academy
Mhm.
there at Spray Foam Partners, that's all included if I'm a customer of your guys' as well, or is that something that's kind of separate?
No, I mean, I usually wait until I get interest from several contractors, and then I'll figure out a neutral location, and then put on a training.
It's live training.
We usually bring
Got it.
one of the manufacturers tech reps in with us to do that hands-on, how to rebuild guns and maintain equipment side of things. I could do it, but I'd rather have somebody that you know speaks to these guys on a daily basis. And more importantly, I look at it as, there's a relationship there. That sprayer is rarely going to call me, you know.
Yeah.
So they need to have somebody that they can call. And I'd rather them have that direct relationship with that manufacturer's rep who's basically on our team at that point.
Yeah.
And
It's like an extension of your guys'
it
Spray
really
Foam
is. And
Partners.
that's
All these extensions out there in the field because you're using their product or selling their product.
that's one of the big things that we demanded, from the manufacturer if we were going to do business with them, is they
Yeah.
have to have that component in place. Um, and I think it's so important if somebody's going to try a new product to have that rep out there with them. I don't care if you've been spraying foam for 30 years, that rep's going to know their product better than you will, even though you've sprayed a lot of products. So let them tell you what that product does and how they can dial it in. And again, that becomes a resource for them. Why not take advantage of those free resources? And I look at the parts the same way is that it's not really a means to make money for us, but it's really a means to keep these guys spraying and keep them on the right track. And
Yeah.
knowledge is the one key to doing that. You need to know what you're doing. And if you don't, swallow your pride, just ask somebody. It's really not that hard. There's people like us that will gladly take that phone call and talk to you for an hour if you need it,
Yeah. And that if these guys are spraying, that everybody's making money.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
simple.
the worst thing. If
I'm not great with math, but I'm good enough to know that it's proven.
I gotta be honest, pen and paper, it had a good run, but foam bid is the future. This episode of the Foam to Fortune podcast is sponsored by Foam Bid. This is the app that allows you to stop scribbling notes and to send bids instantly. No more guessing, no more undercutting your profits, and no more bidding jobs too high. Foam Bid allows you to hit the sweet spot every single time. So if you want early access, make sure you go over to foambid.co/beta.
And that's what, that was one of the things initially that I saw as an obstacle with the sprayers in the field, that they were always worried about reaching out to a rep because they didn't want to be blamed for something that had happened, even if it was their fault, And I always assured them, it's like, we don't care how it happened or what happened. We just care that you get back up and running and spraying foam again. So nobody's going to be pointing a finger. Nobody's going to run back to your boss going, this is what happened. We're going to say, look, this is what you need to do this, this, and this, get back to spraying. And that's all they want. That's all your boss wants. And that's all we want. It's a very simple equation. So let us help. Help is out there. Just ask for it. It's free. What the hell?
Yeah.
I mean,
it seems like working with Spray Foam Partners is a no brainer to anybody tuning in, and obviously that's not my goal of this podcast, Ken. But as we were talking about with your knowledge and your background and your history in this business, like you guys are onto something. I personally feel, I mean the audits that you guys do over there,
So, yeah.
That are included, that's going to help a person close at a higher rate. Like all of this, just the data never lies, and I love data, and people need to check out Spray Foam Partners.
Oh, I remember the second one now. Hold on a second.
Oh, you do? Yes. Okay.
So it's all part of developing that sales process. And marketing is a big part of that, right? So you have to develop the marketing to then have the sales process that you're the first person in to make the sale.
Yep.
If you're the first person in and you have a sales process, the likelihood of you closing that sale right there is so much higher than you being the third or fourth person in, and now you're trying to fight a price battle.
Yep.
So there's that marketing component and the sales component goes hand in hand, and it is one of the major keys to success on the sales front is be the first one in and close that bitch. And it doesn't even have to be a hard close where you're taking a check. You just get them to agree that somebody's going to come back later and view the job site, and then they can pull a check from them. Whatever the case is, you just get them to say okay, because it's the psyche of the sale. People know they should get multiple quotes, but we're all busy people, or some people are lazy, whatever the case is. Nobody really wants to go get multiple quotes, so if you can be that authority that walks in and be that professional that they feel that they don't need to get another quote, you have a sale. And then you're not competing against everybody else in your market. You just made the sale. I have a company that that kind of went out of business since the owner died, but he was old school guy. He still had like the bins of forms that the sales guys would pull off. They had computers from the 80s in there. I mean, I swear to God, the Catherine Ray with the orange, DOS in there or whatever, but he just gave them a form to sell by, and this is your pricing, go for it. And they were at $2 a board foot and got it every day. And that was because they had a sales process in place. It had nothing to do with the actual competition out there. They went in, sold the job, moved on. And that was the old school method of doing things, which still works. You just got to update it a little bit. And one of the things you can get at Energy Modeling Agency is a PowerPoint presentation that you can put on your iPad or whatever and go to the customer. This is for salespeople, because I've been doing sales for a long time. It's easy to get distracted and go down a whole different path with a customer because they talk your ear off sometimes. But you need to stay focused on while you're there and still make it. So this is just a page by page way of staying focused. You're not supposed to read it to them, but it's let them read it. And as you're talking about it, and you walk all the way through the process, which gets you through all those,
questions,
comfortable, all that kind of feel good stuff for the customer. So at the end, they only have that last objection. And that's when you bring the energy modeling into the equation and you close the sale. So that's also an option for people on energymodeling.com, energymodelingagency.com. And, it's just, we'll fill in the information from the reports that we do. We'll put the customer's name at the top of every page, and the applicator's name at the bottom, so it looks like it's their presentation. We don't have vanity that way. We just want you to make a sale. But it's just another tool that we provide. And then there's a companion site that I put out there just to help people with the sales process, which is completely free. It's called freefoamguide.com. So you go on there and I'll teach you how to use all these tools to get out there and make a sale. Again, I could make money off of it, but I'd rather you guys make money off of it. And, we'll make our money on the back end.
I mean, you're absolutely right when it comes to the marketing piece. I mean, it's so much easier if you're first there to build that know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
and to really set that standard. Because if you're setting the standard with everything that you're talking about with your sales process, Ken,
Hmm.
and then some schmuck comes in, number 2 or number 3 or number 4, and they're like, yeah, they don't treat these people as well with the customer service, and they don't have these processes in place. They're always comparing you to that number 1 person, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, gosh, when Ken was here from XYZ Spray Foam, man, he really, like, the bar is so much higher than when these other guys come in. So you're absolutely right. Being the first in to bid, being number 6 or number 7, and you're going to get lost.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And you need some, and if you are not the first one in, you need to shine so much more brighter, um, to, hurdle over top of that first impression, so that's why marketing and sales need to go hand in hand, and we help with that. We have different, uh, we have our web guys that will help you, refine or develop a website, and
Mhm.
they also do all the Google ad search words and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of stuff you do over there,
All the
but
techie
we do a
mumbo
lot
jumbo.
better. Yeah, all the techie mumbo jumbo that I am so much. I'm too old for that shit. So, but
You think
um,
that, but then you might someday wake up as a serial entrepreneur and own a tech company and wonder what the what the hell is going on. That's kind of what happened with me.
yeah,
I hired the experts, and I know about this stuff, and I know how to do it. But I never thought myself, if you go back to when I was that kid that was just sitting in class getting D's and C's, staring out the window, wondering what my future is going to be like. I would
right.
have never guessed there's going to be owning a tech company. So there's still hope for you, Ken.
There you go.
To know that
I can
techie
grow up
stuff.
one of these days. So,
Yeah, for sure. So many of the spray foam contractors, they're looking to grow. Is there like one piece of advice that's non product or non technical that you'd give to the contractors that are looking to scale?
yeah, I mean, don't worry about your competition. Don't focus on the price of the foam. Which is exactly what I was just saying. Is develop those processes, and not just in the sales, but every aspect of your business. You develop the processes and put the processes into place, and let those processes run the business. Otherwise, everything just gets done half-assed, and I've seen that hundreds of times at this point, where people are just busy out there selling, and they assume they're making money because there's money in the bank. But tax bill comes along, you blow a hose, one of the 100 things that'll cost you thousands of dollars on these spray foam rigs. Next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I can't pay payroll this week. What
Yeah.
happened? So everywhere from that sales process, the estimating process, you need to have tools that will show you the money you're making, and you need to do the follow-up. You need to do the job costing for every job. And this is the way you're running a business. Otherwise, it's kind of a loosely profitable hobby,
Yeah.
but if you don't know your numbers, you're going to fail. So put those systems into place. I mean, I just had a simple spreadsheet that I developed when I was an applicator,
Mhm.
that this is what I would estimate by. So I would break it down into time and material, basically. Nobody does that. Hardly anybody does that in this industry.
Yeah.
It breaks it into time and material, because every job's different. You get a crawl space that's 8 foot off the ground versus one that's 2 feet off the ground, and you bid them the same way. One's going to cost you twice as much in labor, and you didn't account for that whatsoever in your estimating process, because you went on a board foot pricing scheme. And I just think that's horrible. And there's so many benefits you can do by actually breaking it into a time and material stance. So the second page that I had was the job costing one. So everything you did on the first page went into the left column. And now you'll be able to take the job sheets that you should have your job foreman or your sprayer filling out every day. That just says, how many strokes were on the machine, which equates to the pounds or whatever you're measuring it by,
Mhm.
and how many hours did each guy work, how many Tyvek suits, how many gallons of gas did it cost to get to that job. get specific, throw it all on that sheet. And for
Yeah.
God's sakes, put the lot numbers and everything on that sheet too, the foam you're spraying, because every manufacturer, if there's a problem with the foam, wants to help with the problem, but they need to know which foam it came from, and having that batch number or lot number on your paperwork is hugely important for your success long term. And that's
And with
for the
time out there.
manufacturer's day. And even conversation I had the other day, where they're like, "Yep, we won't even come out now if we don't have a lot number." I'm like, so anyway, so you fill out that job sheet each day, and then it goes back to somebody in the office, whether it be the owner or whoever, and they compile that information, plug it into that second column, and down at the bottom it'll tell you how much money you made on the job, which is a beautiful thing. Now it also gives you the ability to go, oh my God, I estimated this for 60 hours and it took 80 hours. Why? Did I screw up, or something happened in the field, the rig broke down, or, whatever the case may be, or this was estimated for whatever, 4,000 pounds of foam and it was 6,000 pounds of foam. You've got to go, that's a big difference. What happened here? At least gives you a jumping off point to say something's not right. Let me figure out what's not right. And, you never know if the applicator is, stealing from you, because that, it can happen, or just machinery broke down, or they have it on a ratio setting that is just not producing the right foam, but also eating up a lot of chemical. I saw that the one time. The guys are spraying in a crawl space, so they turned their pressures way down, and so they didn't have it blasting back in their face. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You need to pressurize to atomize the foam, and that's how you get your yield. Saying what temperature, those things matter. Fortunately, Graco and other companies have those kind of insight systems where you can now monitor them from afar, but still a lot of people don't use them and just rely on the guys to be doing the right thing out there. And sometimes it's not malicious. It's just, they get lazy and get stuck in a pattern, and nobody knows the difference until, something glaring happens. But if you have document it this way, and you're doing your job costing, there you go. You can pinpoint it early and head it off and continue making profit, because all that eats into the profit. At the end of the day, the sprayer will get paid, the customer will pay you and hopefully get what they, paid for. But at the end of the day, the owner is the one that's left scratching their head and scratching their ass going, what the hell happened there? And, so if you're not running your business,
business is going to run you.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's why I said it takes a little bit of work up front, sometimes a lot of work, to put these processes into place. But once they're in place, they run the business and you just oversee it. And so, business management is the key. And again, I've always looked at Spray Foam Partners as more of a business management company than a distributor. We just happen to sell the foam to pay for our services. And it's just because we want the best for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Ken, this has been an amazing conversation. I hope that the people that are tuning in really find some value in this, because you have a ton of knowledge to be sharing with everybody out there. And I wish you the best success here in the future with Spray Foam Partners and your auditing company there. If folks are interested in getting in touch with you or becoming customers of yours, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They could go to either one of the websites, and they're real simple. It's sprayfoampartners with an S.com or energymodelingagency.com. And Energy Modeling Agency is kind of self-explanatory. You go through everything there. And but if you have questions, I'm, a click away. It would just be Ken at energymodelingagency.com. If you want to email me, or hell, you can call me, which is 610-420-6799. My phone's always on my side. I'm easy. Spray Foam Partners the same way. Just
love it. Absolutely love it. To me, it seems like a no-brainer. If I was spraying foam, I'd most definitely want Spray Foam Partners and Ken Ashcom in my back pocket to help me with this journey.
That's what I'm here for, and I live to do this. So let me help you.
I can feel the passion. I appreciate you coming on the show. Hey guys, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Foam to Fortune podcast. Oh my gosh. Foam to Fortune podcast on whatever channel you guys are listening or watching this. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming on, Ken. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too.